ready, right? Okay, cool. All right, I think we can start. We have welcome everyone to this panel. Very exciting panel, actually. And there are 2 million viewers on YouTube as well, so let's be careful what we share, right? So I think the name of this panel is called From Federation to Field, Optimizing Performance with Connected Data and Video. I was looking at the name. It's very difficult to understand. I would call it Moneyball 2.0, which I believe everyone watched that video. Sorry, the movie. The Moneyball, it's very simple. And this one, we not only talk data, we also talk video and how this actually helps the exciting performance on the athletic part of the football. Everywhere is talking about money, we talk actually how this helps the performance of players. We have four experts in this industry, in this world. I might just leave it introduction to you guys. You only have, let's say, 30 seconds. Give a very short introduction to the audience and the 2 million viewers on YouTube. Okay? Shall we start from you, Tim?
Yeah, thank you, Rufio. So Tim Rouse, I'm based in Singapore. I'm the Senior Director for Sales across Hudl, and also look after a big section of our mid-market team across the European industry as well. I moved up to Singapore 8 years ago to expand our business into Asia, and have been here ever since, helping clubs across Asia and, of course, back into Australia and New Zealand.
Nice.
Morling, Technical Director at Hong Kong China FA. Been here for last year and a half. Before that, I was Academy Manager at Brighton and now with Albion for 10 years, and player development coach and national team coach at Republic of Ireland, under 15, 16, 17.
Thank you, Joe. Joe?
Hello everyone, I'm Joe, or you can call me my Chinese name, Yuan. I'm currently the head of scouting of Shenzhen Peng City FC. Before that, I was a professional football coach. I coached in first team academy at Shenzhen FC, and even before that, I also did coaching work and scouting work in Beijing, Yuan. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Troy Baker. I'm the lead solutions consultant for Hudl in the APAC region. My background is sports psychology, skill acquisition. I've done a number of roles over the years, but for the most part now I work with our elite teams and help them achieve their goals, understanding how best to implement the technology to achieve what their desires are.
Cool, nice. Thank you, guys. All right, let's just go to the questions directly. I think we start with, like what is Moneyball 2.0 about. We can start with like data and video in, action in the real life. I will throw a very general question out, and we can pick each one. You guys can go from a different angle. So like, data, video, analysis is everywhere in the athletic world now. Like, how do you see this is helping you guys make more technical, real-time decisions? How this actually help you facilitate the decision-making process in your daily life? I might start this with Joe, working from the Shenzhen Football Club.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so basically nowadays in modern football, data work and video analysis work, they touch every part of our team development, player recruitment, and player development. So when using those data, actually what's valuable is not data itself or video itself. It depends on how do you translate the data into your day-to-day work. So currently, like, let me tell you how do we, for example, give you an example of performance analysis. So we use our performance analysis tools and videos every day, which is basically in 4 different areas. So pre-match preparation, we watch the opposition video and prepare for our strategy to play against our next opponent. So also we do training analysis after making the strategy, the game plan of the game. We do training sessions every day. So the analysts, they support the coaching team to code the training sessions and help them to get instant feedback from training sessions. And also the analysis in-game. So during the game, there will be analysts coding game footage on the stand, and they will provide instant feedback to the bench. So the coaches, they can use like an iPad or a laptop to receive the clips coded by our analysts, and also post-match review. So by knowing the game strategy of our own team, we can review the game and how did we perform, are we overperforming or underperforming during the game. And so those are basically the 4 main areas of performance analysis. And also talking about data, now we also have a lot of data providers. They can provide us a very instant and objective data during games and can help us in making game plan and also scouting work. But now the only barrier is for us is to make sure we compare apple to apple. Because, for example, in CSL, now we receive the tracking data, the fitness data from different providers, from Opta, which is Stats Perform, but also Hudl provides us a very efficient tool, which is the broadcasting tracking tool, so we can get fitness data collect from the broadcasting footage.
Okay.
So we use, actually in our club, we used AI to study it. It's not a big database, but we studied about 5,000 data sets and to use the formula to convert the White Scout fitness data to the standard we used in our club. So make sure we compare apple to apple. So those are two examples I can give you in our day-to-day life. But like I said, I think the valuable thing is not data itself, is how do we use those data in our coaching, match preparation, and squad planning.
Cool. Thank you, Joe. John, I think I will follow up that question with you, right? So Joe shared from a club level, during our catch-up, you said there's over 30,000 programs across Hong Kong in the youth program. How do you see that help you guys from a more like a Hong Kong-wide region level?
I think from a representative team point of view, some of it is a little similar to what Joel said, but I think from a player perspective, all of our players would have access to their training, their match games, so they can obviously look back, review themselves, and have plenty of data available to them to help them improve in what they've got to improve on. From a coach's perspective, very similar. The coaches would use it from a training perspective to obviously analyse players, training, how training's gone, recall training, review training, what needs to be done then going forward, GPS, sports science point of view, which would obviously then influence your planning for your next sessions and your game coming up. Game performance, obviously before, the older teams obviously would look at opposition analysis, individual player analysis, and the same then from your own point of view, reviewing the game after. But then touching on something from a club perspective, before being at Brighton, we used data a lot to analyse our own philosophy, because a club or an association representative team might have their own philosophy, but how do you know if it's working?
Yeah.
So we try to analyse through different metrics about how your philosophy can be measured. So as an example, the difference between building and breaking. So you can look at every group from 9s to first team and come up with a percentage, how much was built, how much was broke, what we would expect roughly. Now you wouldn't go too much on the younger ones, but it's there. And we had an example where one of the younger age groups was like 90% break, and we thought, and it was just a bit out of the ordinary. So, but then you analyse why, and the goalkeeper could kick it really accurately, long, straight to the centre forward, and because they're young and they got good success from it, they kept doing it, and the coach encouraged it. But then you're saying, right, you've got to balance this up a bit. So as an example, it helps them with a coach education programme, as well as from a player performance part. But also then from a representative team and a club perspective, I think more and more data would be used now to recruit head coaches, because you want a head coach to play or come into your philosophy and fit what you want to do. And you put a certain metrics in, then obviously then it will come up with 20 coaches that might fit your criteria as an example. So that's obviously something that's come more and more into the market now.
That's very interesting share. Thank you, John. I think we have this question then go to you, Choi, like from a product perspective, right? I think the name is called Hudl Pro Suite.
Yeah.
Like how this really enables this type of, the distribution from club and the national level, how that really suits this?
Yeah, building on what sort of Joel and John have said, they've given some really good answers. Joel spoke quite a bit around the practice of the aspects of performance analysis. And sort of what John said, one of the first things we look at when we start talking with an organisation is understanding what their game model is. Because when teams have a very clear game model, that then gives you player profiles, which then leads to player development. Ultimately, what we're trying to do with our Pro Suite is create impact. And that impact is player development, that impact is players making decisions on the pitch, that impact is whether it's speed or strength, whatever that might be. So that's what our tools are doing. So what Hudl Pro Suite allows you to do, it's a great tool for managing, sharing, analysing, distributing all your information. So, for example, what a lot of teams do is where you have a national team or club where you have academy structure, they have their clear philosophy of game model of how they want to play, then they might, say, for example, have a Hudl page with good examples of what that behaviour actually looks like. And that gets shared across the club so that then there's consistent terminology that everybody's using as players move then between teams, that transition's made easy. And it'd even be it can be built from, it might be your own game. So maybe the team captures in Sports Code their analysis tool and they find some good examples there that can easily be shared up to that Hudl library. Or maybe you look at something like Y-Scout, which is our global sports library, and you find some clips there of maybe some European teams who are doing things well there, and then that can then be created as a playlist, which can also be shared. And I've probably, in terms of impact, one of the biggest things that I've seen in terms of player development over the last few years change is the use of telestration. So our tool called Studio, which we released about 3 or 4 years ago, allows you to do sort of advanced level graphics on clips and things. And what we found is that greatly facilitates learning. So where clips are telestrated, players now, when they're watching the video, you know what they're looking at. So team meetings can be shorter, because you can be very clear about what you're talking about. And that's one of the changes I've seen probably over the last couple of years of team meetings have gone from being 45 minutes down to 15 minutes because you can be really clear, and then athletes walk away with a clear understanding of what they're trying to do. So that's sort of where it fits in a little bit soon from the Hudl Pro Suite.
Thank you, Choi. Then come back to your team. Like, you speak with a lot of teams, clubs, federations, right, about the products. How do you see, like, is there trends of them using the products, or like any challenges, benefits realized?
Yeah, for sure. And I think, again, everyone's done a great job already to sort of explain some of those. So I'll try and shorten maybe what I was going to say, but the benefits are clear. You know, we really want to empower all of the personas, you know, at football clubs or football organisations to basically make better decisions, you know, more efficient decisions and more impactful decisions to help that club or organisation be successful. In some cases that's winning. In some cases clubs have different metrics for success, and of course our tools help them do that. And I think just quickly, if we sort of go back 15 years ago, when we look at adoptions and trends, these tools were mainly used within coaches and analysts. Yeah. And they were sort of impacting what was happening in the post-game and the pre-game, as Joel was talking about. The really good clubs were doing live analysis and impacting the game, you know, at half-time, taking a computer down to the sheds and impacting it that way. If we fast forward 15 years with lots of innovation, you know, and obviously, you know, technology advancements, accessibility has been one of those things that has really increased. And I think what that has seen is sort of plays into what John said a little bit, is there's many more people across an organisation now taking advantage of the tools. So sporting directors and talking about game models that we've already spoken about, and proving game models correct, or making sure that coaches are staying on track with game models is super important. But of course we've got recruits and scouts who are using data and video to make evidence-based decisions. Coaches and analysts are still, you know, using tools, but at a much higher level. Yeah. So we're only seeing things broaden across football clubs.
Nice. Thank you, team. I think, it's great share for the first part, and then we come to, you know, when we have these great tools, we want the federations, the clubs, everyone to use it, to have a culture, have a philosophy, John, as you said, right? So I think we can start from you, John, like from this national program perspective, how do you build a culture of development that connects with the clubs on ground using data and video?
So things that the coaches would use it for from a culture point of view, in terms of getting the players to be self-propelling in their education. So what I mean by that is taking ownership of their own learning. So that might be through football, but that also might help them in education in life in general.
Yeah.
So from a young age, they'd be encouraged to obviously look at their game, but also then go and find other clips of, if you're a centre forward, watch another centre forward of what goals they might score, different goals they might score, goals from crosses, whatever that might be. So I think they become similar to coaches, self-propelling and making sure they take control of their own education. So, and what I mean by that from a coach's point of view is, then they don't rely on the FA or don't rely on the club to do their education for them. Then they obviously take ownership from themselves. So it creates a culture of investigating, learning new things, and obviously learning about themselves at the same time.
I think that's very, actually that's come to my next question on this part with you, Joe. So I think we share a lot about top level stuff, but like regarding young players, you know, especially like Shenzhen is a pretty young club to the city. Like how you feel this kind of, you know, the videos, data analysis help this young player to fit in the club, fit in the squad, adapt to the city, the life they've been there.
Adapting to the, sorry?
To the life in the new club.
Oh yeah, definitely. Also, like John said, like those kind of new technologies, they can enhance the ownership of the players. They have to adapt to the new training environment, the living environment. Like we are a young club. We just relocated to Shenzhen 2 years ago. So actually, when building the new club, we also it's not just first team. We also together we build the new academy. So the young players, some of them, they are not very familiar with the way of working, way of coaching at Shenzhen. But now by introducing those new technologies, we can grow their, how do you say, their identity, their recognition as their players as their identity of Shenzhen Peng City players. Yeah. For example, we do our analysts, our coaches, they do data showcase to them every day. So those players, they get a better recognition of our way of playing, our model, of game model. Also, some of our players they're also selected into the national team. As you guys know, the transitioning between clubs and federations has been always difficult. But adopting those new technologies, they give them the players confidence, and by using that, also can help them to fit into different systems. Probably the national teams and the clubs are playing in different systems. So it's a very motivating process for them. They can take the ownership themselves to decide they want to develop as not just as a player, also as a person themselves.
I think touching on something you just mentioned there, from a coach's perspective at representative team level, they're able to see every game at the weekend that the players have played in. One of our head coaches is in the audience now, and by end of Monday, you've seen every single game played over the weekend. So that makes a big difference to what you, in terms of being time efficient in your knowledge of your players, and for training coming up, next game, what squad you're picking, etc., etc. People coming back from injury. So I think the data available now just allows you to be so much more time efficient with what you do.
Spot on. Actually, Joe mentioned a point is like transition, especially the difficulties in transition from the club level to the national level. Yeah. That's a question to you, Choi, like how Hudl is actually helping Hudl, sorry, my bad. Yeah. Hudl helping the players, bridging the gaps between the national level and the club level.
Yeah, it's all about using technology to support the culture. So where it's done well is you have a culture where you have a clear game plan. So what that allows is, I always come back to talking to teams about having a clear game plan, because what that does is that allows athletes to have what I call the sports psychology trifecta. They can understand their roles. Once they understand their roles, they can identify measurable goals, and then they can take individual responsibility, which is what John was talking about being crucial, because we've seen a shift over the last few years where players sort of started being passive observers and becoming more sort of in control of their own development and their own analysis. So a really good example of that is where a player might, for example, rather than previously come into a meeting with a coach and the coach would give you clips and talk to you around your game, what we're seeing some emphasis putting on players now to review your own game, review your own performance, and then come back and have with the coach a discussion. That's a really good way for a coach to understand how enlightened a player is around their only role and what they're looking at, because you can see very quickly what they understand around their role, and it is what you're thinking that they'll do or it's not. So that becomes really quick. So Hudl sort of facilitates that then by using, like, that can be done through your Hudl library, so players can do that on their phones if they like and review. So it's much more accessible now. And then the other thing I would say is just looking across some of our different technologies. We have a feature in our human performance software, or GPS software, which is called a federation feature. So, for example, like with the Mexican Football Federation, their national team and then the top 2 leagues all use our software. So if a player moves and goes from playing with their club, goes and represents the national team, the data goes with them. And when they come back, the data comes back again. So it just makes it easy in that scenario to be sort of complete in that sort of player development.
Great one. Thank you, Choi. I have one more question for you, Tim. I don't have a question for you on the list, but I just come on one. It's like, you know, we here is World Football Summit, we talk about football, but you guys work with 40 different sports, team sports across the world. Whichever team sport you see, like they embrace this data video culture is better than football, and what football should learn from them? It's a difficult question.
Yeah, threw me a blindside question. I like that. Look, football continue to adopt, very quickly. I think, there's a lot of money in the game of football when you look at the transfer market and everything else that happens. So as people start understanding that having evidence-based decisions is so important, then of course they start looking to data and they start looking to video and making sure that they're using best practice really to make these decisions. If you're looking to spend tens of millions of dollars on a player, then you want to use evidence to try and back up that decision. So, we see synergies across basketball. Of course, the basketball market in America is huge, and they're spending big money on players as well. And then when it comes to sort of using technology, sometimes some of the smaller sports, the smaller global sports, actually have some of the best workflows because they don't have so many tools that they're within their reach. Because in the football world we have all of these data companies and physical data and event data, and we have the same in the basketball world. But if you start looking at rugby and field hockey and some of these other smaller sports, they still have to do a lot of the work on their own. So they can get very creative, and I think that our tools allow people to be creative, and that's something that we really encourage. And despite all of these clubs and national federations being given a lot of data, we still really encourage them to be creative and, of course, tag their own metrics. And a lot of those metrics relate back to this game model that we all keep talking about because it's so important. And sort of matching the events that you're tagging to that game model. So I think we're always trying to bring different sports together to continue to learn. Not always easy with seasons, but something we try and do.
Spot on. Thank you, Tim. And then I think the next section is about like embracing the technology. From the movie Moneyball we watched, it's very difficult from the beginning, right? And I believe you guys are the, pioneers in this part for football world. Like there's definitely challenges, difficulties in getting them to embracing the technology you guys have. I think, Choi, I can start with you. Like, how do you approach that driving the change and to overcome these challenges from the clients, let's say clients, the clubs, federations you speak with?
Yeah, it's probably 3 things I sort of look at when we start working with a team to sort of make sure that we can sort of embrace and drive change with the organisation. So first up, I would say it starts with tailoring the analysis. So understanding how the club's playing and what it is they want to achieve. So if you look, for example, at one of our main game analysis product called Sports Code, when you open that up, it's a blank sheet. It doesn't do anything until we start to work with you and figure out how to best make that suit your organisation. So that's your game style, what you think is important to the game. So that's the first thing, is to understand what a team are trying to achieve and tailoring it around that. The second part, I would say, is providing enough support and education around to support that. So, for example, whether that's Hudl Academy courses you can look at online, whether that's our Hudl Coach Academy workshops or Analyst Academy workshops, or even our pro services where we come in and sort of work with a team on site and understand sort of what you're trying to achieve and get that first sort of implementation sort of done. And then finally, to get over that sort of first hurdle and start getting some momentum is to get some immediate results. So make some simple workflows to answer questions that teams are trying to resolve straight away. So if it's a coach, make really simple workflows so that they can get very quick access to the bits of video or data that they need to make decisions to sort of facilitate player development.
Okay, thank you. Team, you speak with a lot of your clients, right? You do pitch to them, you try to sell them the products. We talk a lot about technology, but this question to you is mainly about money, return on investment. How do you see like the true value, the unique competitions in the product you talk to the clubs, the federations, to bring them, the cost that is make the money worse and the scalability of the products?
Yeah, we don't necessarily talk about cost. We talk about value, and of course the value that we can provide. And I think that's a really important way of looking at it. And of course there's resistance to using technology a lot of the time. And when I first came to Asia 8 years ago, I think that generally speaking, the Asian market was behind in how they use technology. And what we really lent into was education and awareness and helping people understand the value of technology and that it was an additive piece to workflows versus something that sort of took away. And, not to speak ill of Hong Kong, but, maybe 8 years ago, they were rewatching a whole game for 90 minutes rather than pulling out, really important events, and to review, with players those really important events rather than sitting a 14-year-old in front of a 90-minute game of football. And, and that's why people maybe thought technology was something that took away from their coaching roles rather than sort of added to their or enhanced their coaching roles. So we really lean heavily into that education and awareness and speak to them about the value that it can help them achieve. And I think, time efficiencies are really important. Some obvious workflows where we sort of bring time efficiencies are automated cameras. We have people like Joel who are experts in their field, and often they come in and their first job is to film the game with a handy cam, or something similar to that. But there are now automated cameras that can film for you, so Joel can be creating data and creating insights, and of course helping the coaching feedback loop and making sure that coaching feedback loop is happening very quickly. So technology is there to, of course, enhance, not take away from coaching. I think when we look at value, I'll go back to the recruiting, scouting sort of question. If you're going to be spending a lot of money, you want to make sure that that decision is backed up by evidence, and that the player that you're bringing into the club is going to fit into your game model, and that you're looking for all of the right parameters as to why that player will fit and will work. And that really helps you insure your decision, a form of insurance, and that's a big value add to a club.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. And then, John, I think you've been in the industry for over 30 years, right? I think a team come to a very good point. It's like the technology coming in is taking part of the job from the coach. They need to change the man side. How do you find that's a challenging process? With your own experience, or you as the technical director of the Hong Kong FA from this region level?
I don't think it will take away. I think it adds value to what you do, and you become more efficient with what you're doing. So you plan training better from a physical point of view, from a time perspective, what players you got, what loading they've had, etc., etc. So from a planning perspective, it makes it much more objective. I think you've touched on recruitment as well, which would be a big thing from a club perspective. So if you're looking at a young player, you've got lots of scouting reports, etc., on the player. You're then putting a business plan together for the owner to consider buying this player. Yeah. If it's backed up by data of the data that you're looking for that fits your club, then the value that you may be able to spend on that player will be higher than what it would if you didn't, and it becomes a lot easier sell if you've got more objective data. Another probably day-to-day example now of players using data would be a lot of coaches in the room, and someone might come in and say, well, why I'm not playing? I think I'm better than X. But if you back it up with data and say, look, here's my training data for this week or the last 2 weeks, here's my game data for the last 2 games, I'm better. Explain to me why I'm not in the team. Now that conversation's a lot different.
Yeah.
So I think people are using data in their advantage for that. Even from a perspective of agents, as an example, if you're trying to sell a player, you're trying to get a new contract for your player, if you come in with ready-made data and saying, I've got the best centre-back in the club, he should be the highest paid centre-back in the club, here's the data that backs it up, then you've got a much better argument.
Yeah.
And I think, obviously, there's just a few day-to-day examples that you might use it with.
I think John just opened a new business line for you guys. Talk with agents.
Yeah.
Next question is to Joe. So, can you share some good example throughout your years of using the products or data video analysis to support, like how this actually, coming from the difficulty, like slow starting, and then it become a really successful case?
Yeah, actually, after relocation of the club, we start to adopt new technologies, like including, I'm in charge of scouting and performance analysis. There's another director who's in charge of medical and health. So we we use different tools to collect a lot of data. For me, it's basically ball event data and tracking data to, like John said, to support my argument sometimes. Like when, as a head of scouting, I need to report to the sporting director, also to the head coach, to bring them together. But when discussing players, we need to have data to back up our arguments. And also same as the performance department, they use data to monitor the training load, the match load, to reduce injuries. But the start is always slow. Like we always say from a system engineering perspective, like football industry is not a hard system like machines, like algorithms. It's a soft system. It consists of people. So actually, the technologies are not about like what the technologies are using right now. It's more about the people driving it. So when I first arrived, I think what we did quite successful is the first selection of the people in the key positions. For like the first analyst we recruited, he has very solid football background. He was an ex-pro, but he also had a very solid educational background. He studied economy, which is actually relevant to sport technology, but he's doing part-time coaching. He's very familiar with the analysis process and really good with video work. So he's basically, when he arrived, he's like the bridge of connecting the coaching staff and the players. So he's very confident when explaining his technical insights to the players, and he also gradually, step by step, bring the coaches into the like modern way of working. So my point is sometimes selecting the right people, driving the technology is probably more important than the technologies itself.
Yeah.
Also embedded those technologies into the culture of your club is also more important. It depends on what kind of circumstance, environment you want to create.
Exactly. Agreed. Last question is to both Tim and Choi. I think like, you guys speak with so many different federations, clubs. What are the things you have done to make the adoption, the embrace with technology easier? One example would be great.
In terms of easier, I guess that would come to sort of working, again, back to sort of where we were talking about last time, to understand what the club's trying to achieve, first of all, understand what their game model is, and then give some easy steps to move them so that they can accomplish that first, and then once you've sort of got that first step, you can then build on that. I'd say we're probably the best way to accomplish that.
Tim, you got anything to add?
I just keep going back to education. I think the more education that we can provide clubs, and the more education we can provide all personas at clubs, so as they are adopting the tool but engaging in the tool, and again really understanding the value and benefit, they're going to keep using that. It should be something they use daily, and then the value comes from that.
That's very important. Agreed. Last segment, I think that will be the last question from me as well. I think I was chatting with John. He was asking me a question. He was like, what do you think 10 years from now on will look like in this football technology analysis? I can't answer. I don't know. I don't really know. I would just go back this question to you guys. You guys are experts here. What do you think the future of sports technology, video, data analysis will look like in the future? What's the key thing will drive the sports, the football, to the next stage? We can, I think maybe we start from you, team, and we can go this way. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, AI is here, right? So, I mean, 5 years from now, it's difficult to say exactly where it will be. Of course, there'll be huge advancements in technology, and that'll continue to provide efficiencies to coaching and people within football clubs. And I can't tell you what products or software will necessarily look like, because that probably will change a lot. But I can say that sort of how we use data and video will change, and we look at it from a sense of hindsight, insight, and then foresight. Hindsight sort of is where we were 10 years ago and where some clubs still are at the moment, and that's how they, what happened in the match, and how did we do, and how we're going to improve our coaching this week to impact results. Insight is a little bit more predictive, using data and using knowledge of the game to predict what will happen, and then change how we're going to coach to get to that point. And I think where AI and advancements will take us are going to be into this foresight world, which is going to be how do we do it, and how are we actually going to sort of make those predictions, I guess, come true. And AI will be helping coaches, by saying, what we should be doing, why we should be doing it, and how we should be doing it. And it's on the coach to really embrace that, and to use that as a tool to continue to grow. And I think one of the best things is, though, that coaches and players will still have that human interaction. Technology is only going to be a tool. The tool will get better and the knowledge will get better, but that human interaction is still there. We're not robots yet.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. John?
That's an interesting question, but I'm not sure you can predict that. But I think you go back 10 years, 15 years, and you say, in the big games, there's going to be a camera flying over your head to capture everything in the game. You think you're mad because then the ball hit it and things like that, but it exists. If you was to say 10 years ago there's going to be a thing called AI, it's going to do X, Y, Z, people will look at you and think, I'm not sure about that. But you get to a stage now where you could have your team talk planned for you by AI.
Yeah.
You could have your sessions done for you. You could literally have anything done for you from an AI perspective. But you could have, you just finished the first half, you could have all the patterns, you could have everything measured. It could affect what you say at your team talk from a tactical point of view. Obviously from an environment and a field point of view is different. But where that goes in the future, it'd be interesting. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but I think maybe with the development, I can be the head coach of the China national team, lead them to the World Cup potentially. Joe.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think that can probably be true. Like with the positive impact.
I'm not
of
sure
it.
that can be true.
But there could be a tool like helping you to coach the national team. For example, not coaching the sessions, but making decisions in the games. For example, now like 20 years ago, the clubs barely use statistics and video, and that's probably 30 years ago. But now, like there are videos work, there's data work, like basically within every professional club in top division. And if AI can be embedded better in the future, it can provide maybe tactical strategy suggestions for coaching stuff. And also not just for decision making during the games, also to support training sessions. For example, maybe AI can help us to evaluate the efficiency of some certain sessions, or maybe, for example, like talk about maybe there's 18 players training. Should we do like 6v6, or should we do like 8v8 and plus some magic man? Which one is more effective? So maybe those tools can help us to improve the efficiency in terms of decision making and training and preparing games. So that could be the future. So I won't deny the possibility you becoming a coach or a manager of a team.
All right, Choi.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting question. I do talk quite a bit with teams around this, because they want to plan ahead. They want to be prepared for 5 years' time, not just now. So normally when I look at it, that we're at a very exciting time right now. This is probably one of the sort of revolutionary times. I guess maybe giving away my age a little bit here, but if I look across the last 30 years, things changed at different times that sort of caused little revolutions in analysis within sport. One of them was maybe, if I go back to maybe 2003, Sports Code introduced the ability to review video live during games. And I can still remember the marketing campaign that went along with that. It was you can't win today's game tomorrow. So it was little things like that that then everyone started thinking, okay, this is important for us to start doing that. Then similarly, a few years later, Hudl did things where they first put video in the cloud. And that created a sharing platform to make distribution and things easier. So that was a revolutionary thing. And now, I think as the teams that the guys have mentioned already, we're seeing automation and AI really start to come to the fore. So we've got specifically, if you look at team workflows right now, there's still a lot of manual coding that goes on in games. Teams are literally sitting in front of the computer tagging events and stuff like that. We have so much data available now. What we're going to see, if you've got your event data, your event tactical data, you've got your tracking data, maybe your physical performance data, what we're seeing is that's being able to be brought together a little bit more now. So you can use automation right now to bring that data together and answer specific questions for you in a game. So if I want to look at times when an opposition set up in a low block, what was their formation like? Or I want to look at specific examples of transitions, that can automatically be coded for me. No one needs to manually code that anymore. So things as a general theme, what we're going to see over the next few years, and we're seeing that even now, is automation is going to make things simpler, so reduce the manual load, and you're going to have more access to things, whether it's large language models where you can just ask for, show me all the times that this low block situation occurred where they managed to get the ball through, or whatever it might be. And then those bits of video will be delivered to you. So, or create me a chart for how the most effective team that is setting up a high press or whatever it might be. So those things are going to be easier to access, and I think that's the main change we're going to see over the next few years.
Cool. I think that's a great answer to wrap up today's session. It's actually time is up. I think that will be all. Thanks everyone for coming. Please give a round of applause to Choi, Joe, John, and the team in this pioneer industry driving the sports forward. Thank you, everyone. Cool.